Chicha are fly fish food, and I have a really cool fly for you. It's a cousin of the baby fat minnow. It might be the very first one. There were two versions at first. This one has the flash tail. I'm going to show it to you. It's called the ghost baby fat minnow.
That's a big brown.
It's time to do another baby fat minnow. And as you can see, I got the fancy Evo vise. It's cool, yada yada. As we do, we switch off vices. This is pretty cool, and we've been tying on lately. Now, the baby fat minnow is, we've got a whole bunch of colors and styles, and I wanted to make one that was maybe a little more translucent. So as you'll see here, the body's a little bit different on this, and the construction's a little bit different, but at the end of the day, we get a mega translucent fly. This one with a little bit more flash than normal. I'm calling it the ghost, the baby fat ghost. Kind of a takeoff of one of my favorite rip baits, the old Lucky Craft ghost minnow. Rip baits, what else do they call them? Jerk baits, all that kind of stuff. Anyway, so let's get into it. Sorry for talking so much. Promise I won't do that unless it's necessary, which always it is. All right, so I'm using 140 denier thread. This is a size 10 Carbonio hook from Fulling Mill. It's a great hook. I've caught a lot of big fish on this one over the years. And you can see how much room I'm giving that. So when you're tying this fly, you should leave enough space between the bead and the eye of the hook to put your stick-on eye. So in this case, I'm using a 3mm stick-on eye, and I can put that thing right here. Let's see if I can show it to you this way. Boom, so that fits right here, so I spaced it out nicely. But that's a good kind of determination on how far your bead should go back. All right, so if you pay attention on this video, maybe we'll give you some little, baby fat minnow hacks. All right, so we're all tied in, on the other fly. This is where we start messing with bird fur or marabou or whatever you like. On this one, we're gonna play with this ice wing fiber. 3 colors on this one. What I'm gonna do is I'm gonna use these 3 colors, these 3 fancy colors here, to make kind of a base color for this minnow. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to take a few fibers. I mean, it doesn't take much when you're using 3 different colors. And I've already pulled some out of the top of the bag. That's kind of how I like to do it on this one because they're so dang long. What was that? Mother of pearl first, lavender, and then this one's just yellow pearl. So now you can see I have a really cool mixture of colors that I'm going to make the body of this fly with. All right, so the first thing I'm going to look at here is you might have to pull some off, but that's maybe too much right here. I want it really sparse, so I'm going to pull off maybe 3/4 of that amount. Just peel it off. All right, so this is about how much I want to be working with. Look how thin that is. So it'll eventually taper all the way back here, if you run your fingers through it, but that's a really, really long taper. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to come in here and chop it flat. Right there. And then I'm just going to grab it with my fingertips and I'm going to create a little bit of a taper. But I want less of an extreme taper as we had before. So that's pretty good. So as you can see, it tapers down a little tiny bit. As soon as that gets wet, it's going to have a really cool taper. So I'll take that chunk and we're going to tie that down right here. And I'm going to trim that off right about behind the bead and wrap forward. Now, you don't have to do this part, but I just do just because. Just take whatever ice dub you got. I think this is ice dub pearl red hue. It's any type of pearl ice dub or whatever color you like, and just cover up that thread right there. All right, so we're just going to brush that out, and don't worry, this is going to track nice in the water even if it's all curly right now. Now we're going to take our thread in front of the bead. All right, I'm going to moisten this one down, just keep it out of the way. And this one I'm going to tie in right here. I did the same thing, really sparse. and that goes all the way back. We'll trim him off pretty flush. And then one more color, and the color I'm going to use here is called minnow back. And our good buddies at Hairline pre-blended this. It's got like some chocolate brown, some gold, some olive, some green. So it's a really cool color to put on the back of a minnow. Maybe that's why they call it minnow back. Hardy har har, Brigham. He's not laughing. What should your punishment be if you don't laugh at my jokes, Brig? He's got headphones on, and he's pretending like the volume's up. Moisten it down a little bit, and that's just going to run right on top there. Now, keep in mind, your proportions are critical on this fly. It's really easy for them to get out of hand. Feel free to take stuff off and retie if you have to, but a lot of this stuff, you're just using a few fibers. It's going to feel like it's way too little. All right, there you go. There is our starting of a cool bait fish fly. From here, I'm going to take my thread forward, and I'm going to take some Bruiser Blend. Bruiser Blend Junior, very critical. I use Bruiser Blend Junior on most of my streamer stuff. I use the normal Bruiser Blend on really big flies. Anyway, Bruiser Blend Junior. Alpha Wolf on top, cream on the bottom. And so this is the main thing I see on low-fat minnows is people use way too much dubbing at the head. And what happens is your flies won't sink very well and they'll twist in the water. So I have about that much dubbing, which is probably too much. But I won't know until I bunch it all up and preen it out. And some of that stuff did come out. But anyway, I am going about like this with those fibers, okay? I've heard people say, well, Bruiser Blend's Junior is not long enough and it won't cover up my fly. Well, what I do is I tie it in right here, so it's right at the very back, which gives it a lot more material up at the front to fold over. And then this little chunk in the back just kind of props it up a little bit to make that minnow shape. So just tie it barely in by the tips of the back of those. So same thing with cream. We are going to prep the cream dub and we're going to tie it in on the bottom. Just like that. All right, so you can see how much dubbing's on there. Hardly any. At this point, I like to fan out the dubbing, both on top and on bottom, so you can see how that is. And the reason I do that is when I fold it over, it covers the sides a little better. But we're still going to double check that. So I'm going to just push the top back like that. One turn, pull the bottoms under. That slipped off, so we'll just do it again. And then I'm just going to take my thread forward to right behind the eye. Now, if you do that enough times and fast enough, like if you're doing all the flies for a website that sells, you learn to do that pretty quick. So the more you tie, the more your muscle memory will catch up. All right, so whip finish that, and now let's start grooming this. It looks good, but it's still pretty rough. So we're gonna go like this. I see that I have more fiber on this side of the fly than that side of the fly, so I'm just gonna grab some and force it to redistribute its wealth among both sides of the fly. So here I go brushing this out. So I'm brushing the Bruiser Blend into the flash, and as you can see, watch this, when I pull it down like this, that kind of tells me what the profile is going to be when it swims. Nice and thin to a nice flash tail. So even though this is all bushy back here, it's going to slim down. You'll see once we get it wet. Now it's time for art class, students. Everybody sit down and listen up. What I'm going to do first of all is I'm going to color the top a little bit more greenish than gray because we have that cool olive color in the minnow back ice wing fiber. So I found this Prismacolor sepia colored pen works really well. With our marker, sometimes we have them, sometimes we don't. All right, so the end of the day, get a pack of markers and freaking be an artist, right? Just do whatever you want with these flies. But I prefer like a dark olive or dark brownish olive, like sepia color. And then I'm going to go right down the middle of this with black. Just one stripe, just like that. And that darkens it up. You can see it looks two-tone, so it looks like it goes from gray to brown to black, and in the back, a little bit of olive. Ooh, ah, art, cool, super awesome. All right, well, let's do the front now. I'm going to brush out a little bit of tannish brown. I'm going to grab my fingers and pull that down through and blend it a little bit. This is more like a Bob Ross tutorial, Brig. Except for he's way cooler than me. I knew I could get you to say something on that. All right. Brig says he didn't hear me on that one. All right, I'm just going to put some orange in with that tan to make like a little, you know, gill looking thing. This is too abrupt of a line. Let's blend this out. There we go. Sweet. So we're starting to look good here. Let me just touch up this little part. I could see you guys looking at that little section, so I colored it in. All right, the next step is we're going to take a little black. I just like the fine Sharpie for this stuff, but I'm going to make a little gill plate line about like that. And if you're real gentle, you can get a really faint line like that. Okay, I think we're ready here. I mean, if you really wanted, let's do some art here. You don't have to do any of this marker stuff, but I want to pretend like, oh no, it's a little fish that's, you know, opening up its gills and it's stressed. So there's a little bit of open gill right there, right behind that. Okay, all right. We're fishing for fish that are artists. Sue me. Okay, now comes the part where we tie on, or we put on the eyes and the resin. Let me just see if I can tame this a little bit just for presentation purposes. Oh yeah, look at how cool that looks. All right, let's just let it sit like that. We're gonna need to smash this head, all right? So I'm gonna smash it with some forceps that I have. Anything that you have that's flat will work. You don't want anything with teeth because it will cut your thread. And at this point, I'm going to take a little bit of super glue. You can use gel super glue. That's the best. I just have some Zap-A-Gap, but you'll see how much I'm putting on there. Just barely getting the side of that head wet. And I am going to steal a little 3.0 millimeter eye. This is a little 3 mil eye. I'm just going to place that in there. And once it's on there, I can get my thumb in here and kind of move it up into place. So if you can see where I've put that, it's just right behind the eye, right here. Brig the other day was trying to tell me that the best baby fat minnows are tied on size 10 hooks. It's not true. All right, more super glue. If you didn't play Operation as a kid, this is the time you're going to wish you did. All right, we're all set. I see a little hater right there coming out the front of the fly. Just a little tiny wanger thread, and I got to take care of him. And look at the convenient lighter we had in there in case we decide to get a fireplace here. Anyway, woo, that's a hater zapper 2000 right here. It says Bic, but that's what it really means. All right. Here we go, time for some resin. So at this point you need to make sure that your bodkin is handy because you're gonna need it. Because if you don't know where it is, it can be a pain in the butt. Also, a rotary vise makes this very much better than non-rotary because you can just rotate your vise and cure it. All right, so what I'm gonna do, I have the medium Solar-Res resin and I'm just going to make a band around the whole head. about like that, and I'm going to rotate my vise and let that kind of work in to all the spots. Now I'm going to push this. You're going to see once I rotate this around, I'm going to push the resin behind the eye so that it bonds with the dubbing. All right, and I'm likely going to need a little bit more resin on the bottom, so I'm just going to do that right now. See how I'm just rocking this back and forth? It keeps it from globbing up too much. All right, so just a little bit of resin, can move that around. So there you go. I think that's about as good as you're going to get on a baby fat minnow head. And look how much resin there is. Look how much bulk there is. So if your baby fat minnow heads are really, really bulky and fat, it means you use too much junk underneath it. All right, so there you have it. So as you can see, and it's not the easiest to achieve it, but if your minnow is coming down here, it's going to go straight to a point on both top and bottom. So you can see that the head is just kind of a natural part. I get it, the eyes are a little too far forward for normal minnows, but that's the best way to achieve a nice, level, good-looking head that's going to fish well on your baby fat minnows. All right, we're going to show you what this looks like wet. I'm just going to make sure this is nice and cured. Okay, so there you have it. As you can see right here, the fly is see-through. You can see right through the belly of that fly. And that's what's so critical about these little minnows. Little tiny bait fish are almost transparent. And back here, where the flash is, that's a really good representation of what their little blood vessels look like. Anyway, this is the ghost version of the baby fat minnow, and you saw it here first.